Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, you just got back from retail now, right?
I did.
Was AI still all the rage there? Had they stopped talking about it yet?
There was nowhere in the building. Psych. No, it was everywhere.
For half a second, I
had you for like a half a second.
I'm like, did we actually finally hit peak threshold?
No, we have not.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure digital signage was also on display, pun intended, there as well.
Yes.
Plenty of that.
Of course.
Did you see any AI digital signage combo solutions?
There are some AI members that are coming up with like virtual assistants that you can interact with and things of that nature. Yes.
I figured as much. I'm sure that was going to be a hot topic.
For sure.
Well, we're going to dive a little more into that, the intersection of
we
AI
need to understand this a little bit better.
I think we do, because it's one of those places I feel like everybody understands. AI is out there. We got to find use cases and interesting ways to introduce it into the channel and into businesses. Digital signage obviously can be a part of that, but how do you merge the two together?
Yes.
So we've got Kristin Roubie joining us again from Elo to talk about that. She's going to talk about the AI discussion in general first, like how are her and Elo approaching it? What are they hearing? What are they approaching at the moment? How they interact with AI and how it's a part of their business. We're going to talk about some practical use cases, again, giving some examples of where AI and digital signage might merge together.
I like it.
And the industries that are more likely to benefit from it. I'm imagining retail's probably going to be a big one. And then touchscreens in particular, because that's Elo's specialties, the touch part of it. And, when I think of interactive technologies like AI, touch is going to be a part of that as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that's part of the picture too.
Absolutely.
So, lots of good stuff. And we're going to put a lot of this on Kristin to manage this.
Yeah, because I don't have the answer.
I don't know about you, but I don't know how many more ways I can talk about AI at this point and sound remotely intelligent.
Yeah.
So we'll rely on someone else who's much more intelligent than us about it, I'm sure.
Perfect.
All that plus our usual value to the VAR. What's TEConnecting with us? It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our returning guest. Kristin Roubie. She's the Director of Business Development for Elo. Now, I was just checking earlier because I knew it had been a while since Kristin had been on.
Yes.
She has not been on in almost 4 years.
What?
I'm not sure why we took so long to have her back.
This is true. Yes.
It's probably because she's ridiculously busy and was like, I don't have time for that little podcast thing, whatever. but Kristin, thanks for coming back on the show. We're excited to have you back. Tell us, what has happened in the last 4 years in your world? I'm sure a lot has changed for you in that time too.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me back. And I needed that break in time so that I can speak intelligently about things. I need to refresh and, reload on life and technology. So I did need a break for a second. Now, there's so much has been going on in both, the Elo world and my role at Elo, how it has been evolving. So, we're really in a big growth and jumping into new technology here at Elo, delving into a lot of payments and how that is being integrated into our product offering. Today, we actually announced the launch of one of our digital signage products, our 22-inch Android I-Series that's integrating payment. So there's a lot of really exciting things. And then my role, which historically has focused a lot around the Pro AV digital signage and mobility world, has evolved as well, taking on some new sales development teams and growing how we're developing business. And something that is of value to your listeners is bringing leads to our reseller and our VAR network. So that is something that we're really working hard on and to bring additional value to our reseller community.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what awesome. Resellers like. Hey, give me a lead. Will you give me a lead? Yeah. Hey, give me a lead. Give me a lead. Yeah. They actually want a sale. By the way, that's what they're asking for. They're asking for sales order. They'd rather
hand me some money, please.
Exactly. Do as little work. I'm giving them a hard time. Anyway, they love leads.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
And I appreciate as always, Elo is always, thinking about hey, how can we do something a little bit different? How can we, we've mastered this whole touch screen thing, but how can we expand out and get into payments and get into new options for mobility. So I appreciate you guys are always on the forefront of innovation and trying to change and grow into new directions. And I mean, again, as our conversation here is going to go, AI is one of the biggest, hottest talking points in the world of technology right now.
For sure.
Yeah, for many people, it's just a like, hey, I've got ChatGPT, I've learned how to use LLMs, but what else am I supposed to do with this? But we know in our channel and in the business world, a lot of businesses are looking for interesting new ways to use AI. But there's also, again, a lot of hype around it. It can get a little hard to separate that from the actual potential. So talk about that, Kristin. What is your approach and Elo's approach to AI at the moment? How are you guys thinking about it? How are you incorporating it into your business strategy at the moment?
Of course. Well, I asked ChatGPT, what is the potential of AI in our world? And it told me sky's the limit. So,
of course.
And ChatGPT knows all. So I'm excited. No, but seriously, in our world, those of us who serve retail, hospitality, healthcare, industrial, and so on, AI it actually is real. And it's helping us do advanced personalization, things like inventory management, increasing efficiencies in process as well as quality control. But one thing that I do want to caution is, as Dean mentioned, at Retail Now, AI was everywhere. Every event that we go to, AI is everywhere. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think it is something that should be, put on a pedestal or sensationalized. It's truly a programming that is integrated into the things that we're already doing, that its value really only comes out of the data that it's creating, how you're translating that and how you're utilizing it and leveraging it. So for example, since we're going to talk a little bit about digital signage today, our partners who are in the CMS space, they're, creating the CMS platforms that are running those digital signage networks. They're integrating things like computer vision and machine learning to sense triggers and patterns that are then used to optimize content playback in real time. And, so what does that really mean? Based on, for instance, if you're doing the computer vision side of things, leveraging cameras, whether it's security cameras that are throughout a facility or ones that are integrated into digital signage, understanding demographics and traffic patterns, even things like weather conditions and historical trends, and updating the content to serve that particular market and help drive either product placement or making lines more efficient. So are we at peak hours of the day? So let me drive people to another side of the store where we also have additional self-order. We have more POS stations. Or one of my favorite is within the QSR space. And I'm sure you guys have spoken a lot about this or see this a lot, is at different times of the day. We're at the tail end of breakfast. I have a lot of breakfast sandwiches left. Or let's say I'm at a Panera. One of my favorite things is their souffles. Let's make sure that I know I have 12 of these, 4 cheese souffles available. Let me update my menu board to make sure I'm pushing these so they don't go old, they don't go bad. So we're really optimizing the ingredients that we have in place based on time of day. Understanding that, we ran through egg souffles really quickly this morning. Let me move that to a less prominent area on the digital menu board and on our advertisements. So optimizing that supply chain and the communication based on availability, time of day, traffic patterns. Another thing where AI is being integrated heavily is within the drive-through space. So I was on a phone call earlier this week with a partner who is doing a lot within the computer vision space. And they're helping a very large QSR understand their customer base and their traffic patterns. And knowing that most likely if it is 2 p.m. and a minivan is coming through, someone just picked up kids from school. Right. So let me update that menu board. If I'm seeing that minivan coming through, I'm going to update what's on the screen to not just push things like a healthy salad or coffees. I'm going to add milkshake and dessert. So the kids see that and they're asking mom, dad, babysitter, whomever to, hey, I want one of those as well. And there's a lot of things that are happening in real time based on AI. But again, it's all based on how that's being translated and how that is working in the back end and making things intuitive. So for instance, obviously big in touchscreens, right? So if I'm going to an endless aisle or a self-order kiosk and the AI in the background is noticing that no matter what is in the upper right-hand corner, that is being selected the most. So whether it is food, it is, a look of the day, that stuff is going quickly. So let's make sure that I'm putting the most high priced or the thing that I have most stock of up there, depending on the day. Later in the day, it's something in the lower left based on, whoever is going. It is able to decipher that in real time and make those changes. But you also have to put that logic and understanding into the programming as well. So those are a lot of things that we're seeing, but also, Dean had referenced voice and chatbots. A big area within the digital signage space as well is think about things like wayfinding in an airport. There are so many people walking through an airport. Language is a big barrier. So being able to recognize via voice the language that someone is speaking and translate the content that is on the screen to that particular language, being able to speak in their language and dialect. Those are other things that are being used via AI.
So true. Another thing that I'll throw on the table, because I think the question's fair, how do you separate the hype from the real? And I think Elo has a fantastic strategy in that they have a very robust ISV business development ecosystem, for lack of a better term. And I don't know if you guys use internal knowledge or, nomenclature a little bit differently, but, from outward facing, they do just a fantastic job of engaging ISVs, getting them into the program, vetting them through. It's been kind of their protocol for years and years and years and they understand that you need an ecosystem in order for these things to facilitate, right? I mean, not everybody's out there, and AI is definitely the Wild West. And when you get into the deep dives, and Kristin just laid out all kinds of use cases for AI, well, that takes different niche developers, right? And so they have a fantastic team that is on the street and developing that ecosystem. And some of them, I guess, let's just kind of go into some of the certain areas like advanced personalization. I'm glad you brought that up. Is that one of the areas you're seeing a lot of run, Kristin? Like, because shoppers want that experience, and of course, touch can offer a certain degree of that, right? So you're walking up, like in a kiosk environment. Maybe, hey, it's Dean again, whatever. And the last time you ordered this, I know now I'm going down the Minority Report again, but there is that personalization that can occur, right, on the front end.
Absolutely.
But there's also the back end analytics that are kind of driving that, making the store owners even more knowledgeable about what's happening. I think your use case of manifesting how it actually plays out on the screen in the UI, pretty powerful. But so personalization, right? You don't see that ending anytime soon. That's still going to run.
I mean, think about how selfish we all are.
Right.
We want everything to be around us. So hyper-personalization is extremely important no matter what market you're in, no matter what vertical, and however you're utilizing technology. But touchscreens really allow for greater personalization. So if you think about the way AI works often, it is taking trends and metrics and it's gathering all of that data so then it can in turn output something that is relevant. With touchscreens, you are taking real-time information that is relevant to that particular person and giving them true customizations based on what they selected just then. Or I put in or scanned my loyalty card or my app, my QR loyalty, whatever it is. That is truly giving you Dean's exact purchase history, what his browsing history is, what he's more likely to be looking at. Oh, I understand that it is back to school, and historical trends based on Dean's target purchase history means that I should be talking to him about lunchboxes and backpacks, or it's vacation time because the kids are going back to school and I want to go where kids aren't anymore, or whatever it may be. That is where touchscreens and true engagement plays deeper into this AI. You're getting that true real time for that particular person. It's not based on a demographic or this is likely to be their choice. This is actually what their opinions and their thoughts and their behaviors are showing.
Absolutely. And I'm glad she brought up the fact, when you think about these technologies that are happening, and you brought up machine vision and the use of machine vision and integrating that in real time. Well, that's all happening on the edge, and you need edge compute to make that happen. Elo's aware of that. Obviously, they have the compute power, but leveraging more of the CPU cycles to drive some of this machine vision stuff, that's going to be critical for resellers to understand that. And so I'm always advocating that folks get to understand these types of technologies, specifically around touch, just because of the compute power it takes to do the touch. Well, Elo's got that, but then there's also, you can utilize that for some of these other things. And the other thing I noticed is, I know we've been talking about this ad nauseum as well, but the labor shortage, right? And so these facilities aren't having any better time of finding people that are willing to do the work or take the orders and things of that nature. So, touch technologies, kiosks really enable that. So when you lump in now the power of AI, whether it's through a virtual assistant or something like that, I really think resellers have to understand these capabilities and lean on manufacturers like Elo, who have a great ecosystem of people that can be deployed to make these solutions work. It's becoming more and more critical.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of the Wild West, but it's needed.
It's starting to take a little definition.
Yes,
finally.
I agree with
not
that.
As we're starting to finally go out and build some settlements.
That's right. That's right. Stake some claims and stuff like that. Yes,
tame the wildlife a little bit and figure it out. And Kristin, I like the practical approach and attitude that you mentioned kind of up front about this, which is, yes, AI is everywhere, but it's also not the be all end all of everything either. And I think it's important to keep that in mind because I think we've reached the point where we realize, all right, AI probably isn't going to be the destroyer of mankind. That, the doomsayers, have been saying, or take everyone's jobs away and just ruin everything.
Right.
It's also not going to be the savior of mankind.
That's
either,
right. That's right. Yeah.
It's not going to make everything perfect and better for us either. There's got to be a happy medium somewhere in between. And I think that's kind of the approach and the attitude about it. It feels like it's a little bit of what Elo's attitude about it is too. So, Kristin, you gave some great examples already. Both of you did of practical use cases and potential, places that AI can fit into the day-to-day, routines and businesses. Dive into that a little bit more. Are there any other, think about, put yourself in the position of maybe a VAR or an integrator that's like, hey, I get that this stuff is out there. I understand that AI is coming and I need to make it part of my portfolio, but where do I start? What's a light lift? What's something I can go out and do today with the resources I already have and maybe tapping into Elo's ecosystem of partners and ISVs? What's a good place that, some practical use cases that you think are good places to get started, are likely to become more and more popular? And maybe even also like what industries should they be paying attention to? And if it's something massive like a retail or hospitality, are there subcategories that in particular, like, hey, hardware stores might be great for X, Y, Z. I mean, you don't have to necessarily get that nitty gritty, but do you have some more practical examples that someone listening can be like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to go look for, one of my customers to try that out on.
Yeah, so what I would recommend for the VARs is, as Dean mentioned, lean on the Elos of the world who have built that ecosystem. So as you guys know, and hopefully the VAR community knows, Elo has a broad sales team and business development team. We're out there, we're talking to the end users. We're, of course, not selling direct to the end users, but we're talking to the end users. We're trying to figure out what their wants, their needs, their struggles are, so we can help build those complete solutions. So we're getting those type of insights from the end users. We're also, as mentioned, working with the ISV community to understand their software, their capabilities, to help build a complete solution. And also working with partners that aren't necessarily going to sell a SaaS model or a hardware solution to you, but they're out there being a consultant that the VAR can bring in and say, let us help you evaluate your business model to assist you in building the proper solution to help your business thrive. So like I was mentioning, the partner that I was speaking with earlier, they're just completely selling consulting services. And then it takes a system integrator or a VAR to take the data that computer vision and an AI company is saying, okay, these are your peak hours of the day. This is where you're more efficient, having, 7 self-service or self-checkouts versus 7 manned POS checkout. What is more efficient based on your particular location or based on like organizations? So a QSR as a whole, what are these best practices? So bringing in those specialists is something that we can help introduce you to and help introduce the VARs to bring that value add, to become that subject matter expert for their end user. And that's really where something like AI comes into play. It's helping our end users do better and make better buying decisions, and bringing in the appropriate parties to help them implement that. Where I think the VAR can truly assist and make impact is understanding, one, what the challenges, the business challenges are for that particular end user, and the solutions that are driving change and helping them overcome some of those challenges, and understanding the partners that help them do that. Several of our VARs do have softwares, or they already integrate with the ISV community. So understanding how those ISVs are integrating AI into their solutions that are helping the outcome. And if they don't have that, coming to us and letting us bring the appropriate parties into place, and knowing that, okay, our particular VAR, this particular VAR is, very hardware, service, installation centric. So we want to make sure that we're bringing in an ISV that doesn't sell hardware, doesn't sell services. And so it is a value add to them. These are the things that people like Elo, other manufacturers, other ISV partners can help the VAR leverage when it comes to AI. It's really understanding who's making the most impact and who's translating those capabilities into action and more business efficiencies.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I answered the question that you asked just then, but I went off on a tangent. So if something, please,
no, that was fine. Because I think we up front kind of answered a lot of that anyway. The last question, you guys kind of got into some of those practical use cases, and I think this is the extra level here. And really, what stood out to me is the idea that it goes back to some basics of consultative selling, which is don't go into someone pushing a solution, figure out how you can solve a problem with a solution. And I think that's again, something you can take with the AI path here is, all right, I know there are AI solutions out there. It's not about finding an AI solution and running out to your customers and saying like, hey, I want to shove this into your business somewhere. How can we make it work? But instead having a discussion about your business, your problems, your needs that need to be solved. What can I do to help you? And then reaching out to an Elo, reaching out to us at BlueStar, tapping into our ecosystem of partners and saying, hey, who do you have that can help solve this problem? I've got a customer that says they need X, Y, Z. How can we solve that? And maybe there's an AI solution that does that. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, getting back to some of the genesis of the question around AI and digital signage and what applications are becoming more and more popular. And I'd like to get your take on that, Kristin, because we've already kind of touched on it. But to me, it's the integration of digital signage with a lot of what's happening around the computer vision, because now we can marry the fact that we have this interactive technology that can enable interaction and quantify that interaction. Like, what are people touching? But now you're marrying that with machine vision, so we can see such things as like facial sentiment. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they angry? Type of a thing. And how is that having an impact? And kind of rolling those analytics, not just the happy and sad part, but also demographic information, right? Not personally identifiable information, but
the minivan kind of thing,
Yes, the minivan type of thing, right? We see
the family
that
of 5 versus the single person walking in.
And there's a 25-year-old female as opposed to an 85-year-old man,
right,
and so does that modify now the content or even what we're suggesting, from an interactivity standpoint? So these, to me, that's the type of stuff that's not going away. I mean, you can get that level of sophistication. When you think about retail media networks, they have to, in order to compete with the online world. We've had dialogues around this, but Google knows a lot about you, right? And they have all the analytics around where you go and what you're shopping for, and all this pile of data is utilized. Some will say, nefariously. Others will say, it just makes the overall experience better. But in the move to personalization and stuff like that, the brick and mortar, the hospitality, retail, and those are, to me, are the big industries that are seeing good use cases out of touch and using AI. It's, in order to compete, we have to be able to do that. And because the brands are going to demand it, right? The brands want to know, well, how are people reacting to this? What did they do? Those types of things. So, and I know, Kristin, you talk to a lot of these big brands, right? Like, whatever, Nikes of the world and Targets of the world, and are they wanting this more? They want this data, right? This analytical data, so that they can make good business decisions off of it.
Absolutely. One of the things that's hard from a brand perspective is if you don't own that retail space, having access to what's happening in store and translating to POS is often, extremely difficult.
Right.
And
bingo.
One of the things that I think AI is bringing to play. So, again, let's go back 4 years to the last time we talked. What was the hot topic then? Maybe 5 years ago. IoT. That whole Internet of Things. Now, AI is allowing the Internet of Things that are collecting those data to turn it into something usable and actionable. And you're able to take those different data points and give it to the Nikes, the Red Bulls of the world. Hey, we're seeing at this time of day, we have more traffic down this aisle, and therefore I'm going to sell peak ad space. Or I'm seeing, again, that this touchscreen, someone is engaging more with this particular side of the screen. So I'm going to sell a little higher ad space to that particular brand. And you know what? The brand, if it's increasing my sales out, they're fine with it.
Absolutely.
They want that information. But if I can show the correlation between one of those things and the other, that's huge. And because they don't own that space and they don't own that POS necessarily, it's been hard for them to get that true ROI until today. Now it can be truly customized to a particular brand, SKU, aisle placement, whether it's in the aisle, on an end cap, when it's placed on the shelf next to like products versus being somewhere a little bit different. This is able to change how retailers, sell and use their space. They're seeing where people are looking. They're seeing times of day that are peak. They're actually able to see, okay, if I place this brand next to this brand wins every time. If I, put another brand in between, now there's more versatility in buying behavior. So they're able to see that based on where people are looking and stopping. Again, to that computer vision. So they're tying into technology that they already have. They're tying into those security cameras, but they're translating that data into what's being shown on digital signage or on some sort of interactive engagement to POS. So it's really bringing all of those pieces back to a brand or to a retailer.
Maybe, Kristin, can you speak a little bit, I'd like to get your take on, it's from the manufacturer's perspective. I sit back and I think about how all these behaviors have changed, specifically in the retail kind of environment where, the personalization needs to happen. And I think as a manufacturer, Elo's done a really good job of addressing that and morphing different size screens, different size capabilities to enable such things as in-aisle interactivity, right? Like if you're in the wine department, well, now we have a screen size that's maybe not the large one needed to more broadcast message, but now we have a smaller, I guess you just mentioned like the 22-inch, right, that you're rolling out that now has pay capabilities. So, but that can happen like in aisle. So, right, so a lot of this behavior is actually kind of driving innovation on the manufacturing side, is my guess. Is that true? Is that kind of how you guys see it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned earlier, compute at the edge.
Yes, right.
And so making sure that our products have the capability where it doesn't have to bounce up to the cloud or do anything like that, to make sure that the logic and the processing is able to happen real time.
Yeah.
Those are things that are important in our manufacturing and product design, but also understanding behaviors and how things have changed. So to your point, we have come very used to a personalized experience. Google knows a lot about it. When we're on Chrome and I've gone to a certain website, we understand those things, and you're getting ads popped up that are specifically relevant to what you want. So having a smaller screen in aisle that enables you to say, well, I like more, earthy flavors and this, that, and the other thing. And it enables you to have that logic where it doesn't necessarily have your browsing history, but it's able to translate your likes, your wants, your inputs into a real personalized experience that is tailored to you. Is important. And that's important to, again, not only the brands, but the retailers and the consumers. If I can get a personalized experience when I go in store rather than just purchasing online and sitting at my computer, that gives you instant gratification. Right. I don't need to wait. Well, now in Amazon world, maybe 3 hours for it to get delivered, or 72 hours, whatever it may be. I can go get that right now. And through the understanding real-time inventory levels that AI is also putting into place, because it's tying into the shelf, object recognition, POS data, and what you're looking at online. I can then discover I want to go in store, but I'm actually not making my full purchasing decision before I go in store, because I'm going to want to touch and feel. And if there's something that's helping educate you and personalize that experience at the store level as well, you're getting both the experience, the ease of use, as well as that instant gratification.
Agreed. We had a partner on a little while ago, FitMatch, that we've actually got introduced to Elo. And when you think about just kind of where the world is going, and again, I'm just harping on the whole personalization. I mean, FitMatch is around that 3D modeling of your body, and now you can do
an avatar
of you, and now but you can have this interactive experience in the store level, right? Like trying on different clothes, and Elo's a great fit there because with the touch monitor, and now you can kind of, this is where a lot of this stuff is going. It's fascinating to see, but as I put my reseller hat on, as we've been talking about here, you really got to have an understanding where this stuff is going and the components that go into it, and some of the partners that are going to play in that space. So
I think there's a great story there to tell also when you're talking to your customers about, hey, imagine having data about your customers,
right?
Your store, your location, not just a corporate pool of giant data that gets fed down and said, all right, all you stores are basically the same, right?
Yeah.
Here's what the corporate data says, everybody do the same thing. Because I think that's been a failing of retail over the years. I remember back from my days in retail, I worked in a bookstore, and I always thought it was funny, like we had a downtown bookstore that always sold business books really well. Made sense. They were downtown, corporate office area. People were stopping in and buying business books on a regular basis. Yeah. Then me in my suburban, store, not that close to the city, they were always telling us, like, you guys need to move your business books up closer. That store that you've got downtown is selling them out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, no, that's not what people care about as much here. It's not business people on their lunch break stopping by. It's moms and their kids coming by the mall for an afternoon
cookbooks
or something.
And garden, or whatever.
It's travelers that are coming by from the airport that are here for a couple of days and stop in to grab a fun read before they head off to the beach or something like that. So I think once you help tell that story that data in your location and what you can glean, what AI can help you glean about your customers, your location, what's happening in your world can tell an entirely different story that sure, it can help an overall corporate entity, but can help you with your own store to figure out things that are going to matter to your business and grow your individual business as well. So
for sure, yeah.
I think there's some good potential stories there.
Yeah, John, that's a great point. As I've been talking about, understanding that computer vision, what you're also able to see at a store level is how many carts got abandoned because the line was too long. Mm-hmm. And so then obviously, manager on duty is seeing, okay, we're not being as efficient as we should be in this section of our store or this part of our processing, like making the coffee or delivery of fries, whatever it may be. We're struggling here, and I'm seeing it in real time because I have a dashboard that's relevant to my store. Corporate has implemented something, but because of the technology that's in place in the back-end AI, it can get down very granular to a per location basis. So you're making real-time decisions on the back end. So those operational efficiencies, employee efficiencies, that's extremely important because we were talking a lot about, the customer experience, but another way to improve the customer experience is to make sure that we're doing the best we can on the way our business is flowing in the back end.
So, all right, well then, Kristin, let's wrap this up by talking about the touchscreen part of things in particular. Again, I think we've kind of hinted at this a little bit, but I think touchscreens have an opportunity to really amplify the potential of AI. Keep customers even more engaged, deliver better outcomes, increase productivity. How do you see that connectivity happening? Where is the connection point between how touch can take what you can do with AI and digital signage to an entirely different level?
And we've harped on it so many times. It's truly personalization, no matter what the vertical is. I mean, if you are looking within the healthcare space, you're getting personalized medical advice. I mean, disclaimer, of course, but you're looking into things that are completely relevant to you as a person, not generic traffic patterns and flows. It's really going to tie back to the personalization no matter what vertical you are in. If you're doing a self-order kiosk, what are you touching? What is a complementary item? What are you most likely to continue to buy? If you are looking at an endless aisle kiosk, what are you looking at? Let me make sure, okay, this isn't something that we have in stock here, but let me recommend what we do have in stock that's very similar to what you like. So I can make sure that you are satisfied and you're getting what you want while you're here. And that store is able to capitalize and close that sale.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
So touch just really allows you to realize potential quicker.
Yep.
Because you're able to understand who is utilizing that particular piece of technology, who's engaging with your brand, and what they're feeling at that particular moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like touch is very empowering. Mm-hmm. Like we're all used to having, touchscreen devices now, and most of us have, have those in our pocket on a daily basis.
Yep.
But I think like when you go out as a customer somewhere and when you are interacting personally and you're touching and you're giving information or you're, deciding, exactly how you want to customize your meal or, sifting through things that you want to look at in a store and trying to figure out where something is or registering for something, whatever it is. That's for me, at least, I know I'm someone that likes the self-service aspect of things because I do feel like it's very empowering. It's me taking control back for myself and saying like, all right, I'm someone who can handle this myself. I don't have to engage a service rep to do it. I don't have to wait for an employee to show up. I'm going to handle this and take care of what needs to be done myself. And I just feel like that just lends itself to the idea of, again, that personalization. If the AI is already delivering its personalization where it feels like it's really communicating with me as a person, and I can also then engage by touching and reacting to that myself, that's just an entire whole ecosphere you're building around someone that makes their personal experience. It's like you feel like you're not walking into Discount Emporium, you're walking into Dean's Discount Emporium. It's all about you that day. It's Dean centric. Everything is all about what Dean's going to get out of this particular day.
But that's good stuff. I mean, I like the way you kind of analyze or set up the question in the sense of, how does touch amplify AI? it does amplify AI, meaning, you can take those analytics and the information now and actually do something with it. And so it's exciting to me to see these concepts of virtual assistants and things of that nature really now come into its own, in the sense that you tie it into an LLM. Virtual assistants in the past, maybe kind of like the little paperclip on Microsoft Word. It didn't have all the answers kind of a thing, but it's getting so sophisticated now that you really can have a virtual assistant, but you still need to interact with that. And so there's still the need to touch and move, sales down the process or do payments and things of that nature. So it's really fascinating what's happened in the space, all being amplified and driven by the fact of around these interactions or integrations with AI.
Exactly.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things, like the lowest hanging fruit, is just thinking about at a very basic level is language.
Yeah, right.
We live in a very diverse world and culture, and being able to engage with someone within their own language. So choosing that, but as a programmer, as a brand, remaking everything in multiple languages, that's difficult, and that's very time consuming and expensive. If we can have AI translating that quicker and without all of the programming in the back, one, I'm giving my customer a better experience, something that they understand better, and I'm not having to do all the heavy lifting myself. AI is doing that for me.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
That's a very good point, because I think we sometimes live in a world where it feels like everything's catered towards one particular type of person. And I think sometimes people can feel a little left out. They feel like this isn't necessarily about me. And even just little touches like that, where it's like, oh, I've got the option to select a language that I'm more familiar with and not have to struggle through my second or third language. I'd love to do that. Or, oh, I've got the option to select something that helps this understand that I am of a certain age and a certain gender or a certain type of person and cater that experience to me. Yes, I would love to do that. That sounds fantastic.
Right.
So that's good stuff. I like that.
And just training employees. Think about within the QSR space, you're going down the line and everyone has their particular space. If I'm able to better decipher ketchup versus mustard versus mayo in my own native language, I'm going to have higher order accuracies, which then turns into customer service and more efficiency.
Yep.
Great point.
True.
Love it.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, we're going to have Kristin wrap up with us in a moment here to talk about, what to look for in an AI solution and, to find the right kind of partners to go out and build these kind of awesome personalized solutions with your customers.
Yes.
But before we do that, we want to, as always, thank all of our sponsors here on the TEConnect podcast, those who sponsor the TEConnect program, the podcast in particular. Elo has been a premier sponsor for us since the beginning. You might hear at the end of every episode, we usually have an Elo ad for one of their products. Hopefully you stick around and listen to those. If nothing else, because Dean and I just like to have fun and riff a little bit when we do those too. So we appreciate your support and always supporting our TEConnect program, which helps build our own ISV ecosystem, the podcast in particular, and lending us fantastic guests like Kristin. We very much appreciate what Elo does for us. Hey, if you like this show and you like what we're talking about, first of all, the best thing you can do is like the show.
There you go. If you like it.
And share it.
Yeah, there you go.
Share it with somebody. If you hear something, you're like, man, that was a really good conversation. I got a lot out of this. Share it with somebody. Send a link over to a colleague. Maybe pull a snippet out of it or something and send it to a customer and ask them what their thoughts on it. Sharing it's a great way to get more people interested in the podcast, and also to let us kind of know that you're getting something out of this. And of course, as always, if you have ideas for the show, if there's things that you heard Kristin talking about today that you want us to dig a little deeper on,
or you just might be looking for a new shirt, go ahead.
That too. Yeah. If there's topics maybe we just haven't dug into as much as you'd like, or if you just are in need of a nice new comfy t-shirt.
Yes.
The new TEConnect podcast t-shirts are now available.
Yes.
To get one,
there's
different ways.
I don't have one yet, by the way.
Well, it's over at the office. Go to Angie's desk and find them.
Got it.
All you have to do, though, is submit an idea to us. Just tell us something you want to hear about on the show. Tell us a topic that you'd like us to get into. I just had somebody send some topics over a couple weeks ago that we need to sort out, getting them on the show, but I immediately got a shirt sent out to them. So the new ones are available. They're very comfortable. They have a cool new logo on them. So get yourself a t-shirt. A couple ways you can do that. One, find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on BlueStar's LinkedIn. You can also email us at any time, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. let's wrap things up today. We'll start with a little VAR value here.
Yes.
And again, Kristin, I feel like we've done a great job here of explaining Elo's, the way you have embedded yourself into the AI discussion and how you feel about where AI solutions belong, and that partners that you've developed and built to drive AI in the market. But what should VARs be looking for with if they're working with a customer and they do see an opportunity for AI? How can they go out and what do you think they should be finding when they're partnering up with someone that's got an AI solution? What should they be talking to them about, asking about, looking for that's going to ensure that it takes advantage of what displays like Elo's have to offer?
Yeah, I really think AI is something that, as we've mentioned, it's continuously evolving. And you want to make sure that the platform that you are working with is going to continue to evolve and leverage. As we said, these ISVs, they have their bread and butter, right? They have what they're doing, whether it's kitchen automation, self-service, checkout or ordering, or digital signage. How are you or your customer going to continue to get the benefits of this? I'm not just getting, playback and scheduling and playlists out of this. I'm getting the ability to make this dynamic where I'm not having to engage an employee at all times. It's going to continue to evolve, and I'm going to continue to bring value back to my customer with all of these additional features that, one, are in the platform, but two, that I, as the VAR, can take and resell as a service. Is there something that I can help you with these analytics that are going and help you evolve and grow your business, help you to really point your content in a better direction based on the different information and data points that we're getting through the AI. So making sure that it's always evolving and you're getting feedback on why things are happening, why this AI is telling the content to change, or why I'm getting feedback, and making sure it's compatible with everything that customer is doing. So it ties in with their POS system, it ties in with their ordering system, it ties into any of their digital signage, whatever it may be. That compatibility on not only the software side, the back end side, and the hardware side is key. How the different touch points within their facility, whether it is back of the house inventory management tied into the POS system, and I'm using Windows here and Android here, does it translate? Does it communicate? So compatibility and continuous function feature improvement.
And isn't it nice that Elo has modularity in order to enable a lot of that she was just talking about, right? Because you have to be able to tie into different systems and stuff like that. Good stuff. Yeah,
I completely agree. And again, if you're not sure where to start, if you don't know how to find these solution partners, if you're nervous about finding the wrong partner, again, reach out to us, reach out to Elo. We've done the vetting, they've done the vetting, and they will help you find the right kind of partner to match what you need.
And the goods. Yep.
Exactly.
That's right.
All right. Hey, let's wrap up as always with What's TEConnecting with You, our favorite segment where we get to talk about something in the world of tech, innovation, science, business discovery, just something we feel like chatting about today. Yes. Kristin, I'll let you kick it off. What's TEConnecting with You right now?
Oh, well, you know what? I mentioned to you guys a little earlier, tech is kind of boring to me. Honestly, the way people are evolving is what we're talking about here is just expanding a current and existing solution and adding AI into it to make it more accurate, more personalized. But I'm in the middle of a remodel right now. And what is actually super interesting to me is building materials, how these have evolved recently, and where you don't necessarily have to spend as much money on real stone. They have, stone that comes in, panels that look like 100% customized real stone at half the price. Love that. Remodeling and materials are really expensive. Things like, rather than having to do full brick pavers, they have interlocking, I don't even know, I'm going to say carpet squares, but that's not necessarily what it is. But it's real stone, or it's, the Trex type material where you don't have to do like, so we're having a lower deck and an upper deck, and then currently where our existing deck used to be, it's going to be potentially grass. But now I'm looking at the fact where I can get a brick patio, but I don't have to spend the money on people coming and building it up and doing that custom brick work. So that's what's been interesting to me. And I have been geeking out on all the different building materials and where I can get the high-end look, but saving the most amount of money.
I like it. I like it.
The technology of building materials.
It is a fascinating world. I was just watching something on like a 3D whatever machine that's building these huts and stuff that, and it's like, it's really, really fascinating. I don't even know what kind of they have to innovate on materials, right? That are going through these systems and that can be ported everywhere. It's fascinating. Fascinating.
Hopefully it'll drive the cost of these innovations
nice.
in homes down a little bit too. Make them a little more affordable for folks.
Is it going to be a little bit more affordable, you think, Kristin, these types of things? Or it's got to be, right?
The materials that I have been seeing, I will say, when I got the original quote on what my husband and I wanted to do, I felt like I got, kicked in the face by a horse, but
a little bit of sticker shock. You're like, oh
my goodness gracious. So, we were able to take things down, and through being savvy on the different types of building materials that are now available, we were able to save a lot of money, and that was huge for us. So we're getting a similar result, but because we chose different materials with a very similar aesthetic, we're saving a lot of money, which is great.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you need some remodeling tips, reach out to Kristin.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Dean, what's the next TEConnecting
I have very expensive taste on a low budget, so I'm just very disappointed.
There you go. Well, do you like oxygen?
Yeah, it's kind of vital to my life. I'm told at least.
We kind of need it.
I've come to understand. Yeah.
Do you think it comes just from trees and plants?
I'm guessing probably not.
Well, that's what I was led to believe, right?
I'm assuming you're going to tell me
oxygen
otherwise.
comes from, and that's like the whole, how this whole world was created, conducting photosynthesis, that whole good thing. Nope, that might be turning on its edge. Here's the headline. Oxygen is being released at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. A new study
dark
reveals.
Oxygen thing?
Yes, this is dark oxygen. Exactly. It is mysterious. The discovery has baffled scientists. I always love that phrase around anything.
That can either be awesome or terrifying.
Yeah. If we're baffling scientists, exactly. It can be awesome or really kind of terrifying that we haven't figured this out yet to date.
Like, you guys don't know what's going on either?
Exactly.
Crap, we should
not
be in
just
trouble,
us plebeians here. God, the scientists have no idea what's going on either. Challenging the long-held belief that only living things can produce oxygen through photosynthesis. So what it is, a leading hypothesis right now is that rocks containing valuable metals like nickel and cobalt are splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen through seawater electrolysis. And that is what's creating oxygen at the bottom of the ocean. Who knew? There you go.
I feel like,
but it's such an innocent little thing, but it really could totally change our whole. Do we need trees? Well, no. The oxygen's actually coming out of the ocean. Go ahead.
Still like to keep the trees around.
I'm kidding. I'm just saying that you had no idea that was even a possibility.
Right. I feel like we're putting and I love space exploration, and I think it's a worthwhile pursuit as well. But sometimes I feel like if we just spend a little more time digging around at the bottom of the ocean, the depths of the ocean, which we know less about what's happening in the depths of the ocean than we do in most of space. At this point.
That's right.
And I'm curious if there's just maybe we could discover a lot of amazing new things.
I'm pretty sure we probably could
once we figure out how to really plunder the depths of the ocean a little bit more. I say plunder. That's maybe not the best way to frame that, because we're just gonna wreck that the way we wrecked everything else.
Yeah, really.
All right, this is the last thing we haven't destroyed on the planet yet. Let's get it. Dark oxygen. All right, there we go.
So what's our TEConnecting with you?
So Dean, you and I are Apple Mac users.
Yes.
Kristin, do you do Apple like Macs? Or are you still on a Windows based computer?
I'm still Windows based. My husband's very Mac central, and I of course have an iPhone. But no, I will say, Apple is foreign. I was actually on my husband's computer earlier today and just minimizing a window.
Foreign.
It is, yes. Yeah. It took me a little while to adjust too. Yep.
Right.
Yep. I get it. It took me a while to adjust. All right. Well, then, do you still use the Notepad feature on Windows at all?
No, I really don't. I just open an email and start typing.
Okay, I would venture to say most people aren't really using that.
I don't use
Notepad. Now I use Notes,
rarely,
in Apple sometimes.
Yes,
but even back when I was still on a Windows computer, I rarely used Notepad. Well, apparently. Notepad is still a thing, and it decided after, what has it been? Since 1983 is when Notepad was introduced.
Wow.
They decided to finally add spell check to it. I don't know why all of a sudden there was a decision like, hey, you know what? We should allow people the option to be able to correct their spelling in Notepad.
Can you turn it off? Because I have a valid reason why. I can see why they didn't use it.
Well, I don't know. I'm assuming you can. They also recently added tabs. For some reason,
good.
too, a tabs feature. So these are two new innovations that have just happened in the last few months on this extremely old program. What's your reasoning there? Because it might be
the only people that I ever actually watched use Notepad were programmers.
That is true.
They would drop in code, and then they could work on the code in Notepad and then put it into whatever they were using. So spell check would be really a pain in the butt. It's trying to, because it doesn't understand what, hashtag or whatever.
Yeah,
brackets,
exactly.
These things, types of things. So
that's the only thing I can see. You could turn off. The other part of it too is I feel like most people use Notepad. It's the same way that I use Notes, like on Apple products as well, which is for, again, just kind of like
a quick note.
Quick stuff. Yeah.
I've got like a list that I go to the hardware store.
Yeah,
it's just like
exactly.
I use
not
Notepad
a long drawn out, like I'm writing something that is meant to be very well written and clear and concise. I'm a Grammarly guy these days. Yeah. And even that, like I have turned off, because Grammarly you can select like what apps and what places it's being used. I've turned it off in Notes specifically because I don't need it showing me like, hey, you're not capitalizing this and using proper punctuation. Like, I'm not supposed to. This is not what this is for.
It says get eggs. I get it. Yeah. I know what that
exactly.
I mean by that.
I don't need you to do that to me here. So, and I feel like that's what most people were probably using Notepad for back in the day too, or anybody that does still use it frequently. So to me, this is one of those like, did we really need this? I mean, maybe it's something if you'd introduced it, 20 years ago, it might have made some sense.
It's interesting that you brought up tabs because I've been listening to a different podcast called Acquire, and they got really deep into Microsoft. And one of the reasons why Microsoft lost the browser game, remember, I'm going back to like Netscape and all that kind of good stuff, because they didn't have tabs. They didn't have the ability. I mean, who doesn't have a browser where you got like 15 tabs open, right? And so they lost that war primarily because they didn't have tabs. But now they have tabs in Notepad. There you go.
There you go.
They finally have learned. How many years hence, by the way? Was it 83?
83 is when this was introduced.
So 30 some odd years.
Almost 40 years
later, they finally.
Over 40 years, we're finally adding something that everybody else innovated and added, 30 years ago, probably at this point.
There you go. All right. Fair enough.
The march of progress.
I love that on this tech podcast, Dean brought up the old paperclip that helped you get reminders, and you brought up Notepad. This is funny. I love it.
But actually, you kicked it off right, Kristin, because we're bored with tech, right? Is that what you said? Like your opening is like, tech's meh. Yeah,
we're just a couple of old Gen Xers that are sitting around reminiscing about the tech of old.
That's right.
We had our youngsters on for Tech Trivia a few episodes back, and half of the stuff we probably mentioned the paperclip and Notepad. They just look at it as like, we don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. So we're just showing our age.
Oh, good stuff.
All right, that's what's TEConnecting with us. It is time for us to unplug. Kristin Roubie, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
we appreciate having you back on. Maybe don't wait another 4 years next time. We'll try to get you back a little bit sooner.
There you go.
And hey, until next time, go out there and find yourself some oxygen in the depths of the ocean.
Yes.
If you really have a need to do some spell checking, open up your Notepad. I guess that you can find your spell check there. Mm-hmm. Find some high quality but low priced building materials.
Yes.
And as always, please stay connected. TEConnect podcast is brought to you by Elo, who have completely redesigned their iSeries 3 with Intel, adding the dependability that businesses need. These are brilliant and beautiful interactive displays that feature a modular design and endless versatility with sizes of 15, 17, 22, and 24 inches, a slate version, and square or wide aspect options. They got it all covered.
Holy moly, do they not?
If you can't find an iSeries 3 to fit some particular need that your customer has,
I don't believe you.
They must have asked for like a octagon or something.
Exactly.
For some weird reason.
And we need that in a triangle shape. On
a random weird related note to throw into the middle of an ad here. I've been rewatching the Battlestar Galactica series.
Oh, wow.
From the early 2000s,
Yeah.
And all the paper in that show is got the corners edged off, cut off. So it's like an octagon
rounded
shape. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So there's a podcast I'm listening to that's talking about, we're also rewatching the show, and they keep commenting on what else in that world has those, weird, corners cut off or whatever. Maybe digital signages.
There you go.
It's got the octagon shape at that point. Too.
Right.
So anyway, not what Elo's doing here, but a fun aside. All right, every iSeries 3 offers 10 Touch Pro PCAP, a fanless IP54 rated design, edge-to-edge glass, and Intel's 12th generation processors for reliable enterprise security.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is available in models that support Windows, Chrome OS Flex, and Linux. The iSeries 3 is also compatible with Elo's Z stands and the Z Series Elo pods for self-service and point-of-sale applications. Again, if you can't figure out how to use one of these for something, you're probably not in the digital side.
Yeah, exactly.
Learn more about the redesigned iSeries 3 by checking the link in the show notes or contacting the BlueStar Elo team.